How you doing? Good evening. This is Julius Cephas. I'm here stepping in for Norman Oliver. He's on vacation. And tonight we're going to have a good show. We got two great elected officials. But before I go to the officials, again, I want to thank Norman Oliver for allowing me to fill in tonight. And again, my name is Julius Cephas. I'm president of the Port of Wilmington, Local 1694-1. And I want to make some announcements first. Norman told me to make sure I made these announcements, so gotta forgive me for a second. Okay, Delaware State Alumni Association, Newcastle County chapter meet and greet at Delaware State University campus, Saturday, November the 16th at 11 a.m. And for more information, you talk to the Alumni Association. Again, it's Saturday, November the 16th at 11 a.m. at the Wilmington campus, Delaware State University Wilmington campus, okay? And tonight, I'd like to dedicate the show to my mother, Mabel Cephas, but also to last week, they had the senior ball, and it was a blast. The seniors looked great. I mean, we had a great time. And next year, I would like to see the raffle off and the mayor, the elected officials, where the seniors get a chance to dance with the politicians. I mean, so we got to make sure that happens. But the seniors had a ball, and everybody was dressed nice. It was a great time. My mom enjoyed herself. Everybody enjoyed herself. Also, I want to also talk about one of more announcements. The Port of Wilmington is having an employee wait a minute, let me get this together so I won't get in trouble. Okay, Saturday, December the 7th, 7 to 12 midnight, they're having employees party at the Moose Lodge. It's called 621 South DuPont, Newcastle, Delaware. You're gonna have a live band, music, and you got to dress to impress. $30 for tickets. And again, it's Saturday, December the 7th, 7 to 12. It's a Port of Wilmington employees' third annual Port Workers Night Out, a holiday party. And it's gonna be nice, and we'll talk about that a little later on. Okay, and again, one more thing before I go to my guest. Right now, we're the unions in negotiations with the port, and we feel though that port's management is trying to break up our union, and I believe it's because of what happened with Kinder Morgan. And again, I'm asking Norman in the next month or two. We want to have a show with all the unions, and I'm talking about the DART, president of DART. I want Amtrak. I want the post office union president. I want different locals presidents to come on this show and let everybody know how important unions are for this community. But tonight, right now, I want to introduce our guests. We have City Council President Theo Gregory and Newcastle Executive Tom Gordon. How are both of you guys doing?
Doing well, good.
All right. Okay, we'll start with just about with you, Tom. What's going on with you?
Well, in the county, it's always very busy. Public safety, police department's running well.
Okay.
We're dealing with a lot of land use issues that you read about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're opening up all our parks. You see, we got Rockwood back open again, and we're at Sleep Under the Stars just a couple weeks ago. We're trying to involve Parks and Recs from the city and the county. And we've got Carousel's doing really well with that beautiful park out there. So things are going good.
Okay. And before I get started, or I'm getting started, both of you guys grew up in Delaware. Y'all went to colleges in Delaware, and you went to Salesiana, and you went to Delaware, and you you're a lawyer, and you're a top cop. Just talk about what made you want to get into politics in Delaware before,
Well, I think that I came through a generation where we were encouraged and influenced and mentored to participate and to have a voice. I came through the civil rights era and through Vietnam War, and where people were protesting and the values. So I think that I have values, and therefore I should participate. I think getting a law degree and getting educated is a vehicle certainly to take care of oneself, but it's also a vehicle to be able to participate.
Okay. Tom, you too.
I was police officer at a young age, became chief of police around 14 years on. And after 21 years, I thought I could do more to affect the government and beyond policing and land use in other areas. So that was my motivation for becoming county executive in '97.
Okay. And Theo, most people don't know you was a prosecutor and a public defender.
Yeah, I prosecuted. I was a federal prosecutor from '79 to '84, and I resigned in '84 to run for city council and open up a little practice. And then I was a public defender when I shut my practice in '96 to 2006 when I decided to start a charter school, Moyer Academy.
Okay. And something else, okay, right now with all the crime and everything going on, and this is for both of y'all, what are y'all doing to decrease crime in Newcastle County and in the city of Wilmington?
Well, I'm on the legislative side of government, and then you have an executive side of government. I can't put programs in place. I can only influence programs. I can tell you what I think we need to do in order to reduce crime. I think we have to have more eyes and ears on the street, period. Eyes and ears. And what does that mean? One would think that translates into more police officers. Well, if you put more police officers on the street, that's going to cost you $2, $3, $4 million for probably 20 police officers. It's just a lot of money. When I say eyes and ears, I mean the community has to buy in, eyes and ears. Snitches, eyes and ears. Bona fide snitches. I'm not talking about little raggedy snitches. I'm talking about informants. You got to get more informants. You have to have undercover police officers. And thirdly, you got to have a system of social workers. You can call them interrupters, as some people want to call them. You can call them youth workers, crisis intervention specialists. They need to be on the street. And all of them play a different role. But the core of what they do is eyes and ears. Wilmington is only 12.5 miles or 7.5 miles of usable land, and you have about 70,000 population. When things start to bubble up here, retaliation and the rumblings, if you got eyes and ears on the street, one, you can stop it, but two, the other eyes and ears on the street would be changing behavior of people. So I think that what we need is more eyes and ears on the street.
Tom, I'm going to go to you in 1 second, but you said the word snitch, and it kind of, is there another word? Because
an informant. No. Okay, what you have, the community is the community.
Right.
A person, let's say, okay, I'll take snitch and throw it out. Okay. Informants, people who want to tell what's going on. I'll put that in there, okay?
Okay.
So I don't think snitching is bad.
I mean, it's just
it is what it is.
The label it has, it didn't.
That's not my label. Okay, that's not the way I see it. But how do you get more eyes and ears on the street? So I'll stop saying snitch. I'll say community should report things that are impacting them and around them. You got informants. They should do what they do because they do that to work off time and or to work off charges. And then you have undercover police officers. And then you'll have over here people who are hired to be a social worker type people, interrupters, youth workers, crisis intervention specialists. They're trying to change behavior. But by being out there, they can see it coming. They know where the community is starting to bubble at, and they can kind of figure it out and help to suppress some of that stuff. But I think you need more eyes and ears on the street. And I accept that snitches may be a bad word.
Okay.
But guess what? It's like prostitutes. You can always have them. So you might as well use them.
Okay. Tom, what for Newcastle County?
We put a great management team in place right away. Joe Bryant, Director of Public Safety. Elmer Setting, Chief of Police. Our crime is down 20-25%. We have a huge population. And we've invested highly into programs that predict crime with computers. And it's staying ahead of that because we're all affected by poverty, and poverty is going to drive the crime. But one aspect of it that's quite pleasant is the paramedics. I mean, the paramedics from the city, they're involved in every shooting, and they're saving a lot of lives. And they're seeing a lot of violence all over. So they're doing a very good job, and that's saving a lot of lives in the police department and under the management team out there and under the paramedic Larry Tan. It makes it right now a lot easier for me to get on and do other areas of the county.
Okay, and Theo, I'm gonna come back to you. Okay, you led University of Delaware. You was a star fullback. I believe you was a star fullback, and you brought 2 national titles to University of Delaware. what did you learn on the field that prepared you for your career and help you out with your career?
I learned a lot on the field. Stick-to-itiveness. I remember the coaches saying, we recruit you, we put the system in place to win T, we get you prepared to play, we scout the other team, and all you have to do is go out and execute. And it's a 4 quarters. Keep in mind, first, second, third, fourth quarter. It may not look pretty in the fourth quarter, may not look pretty in the second quarter, but just stick with it to the end. Okay. It's like painting a picture. Pictures have different phases they go through, but at the end, if you stay with it, we all stay on the same page, we're going to win. And as a consequence of that philosophy, we won 2 national championships. And in a 3-year period, we just lost about 5 games. 2 years, we lost 1 game.
Okay, and I'm gonna get to you one more minute. I'm trying to get through some of these questions. Okay, this is another one for you, Theo. Okay, you've given so much back to the community, and you've done a lot for the community. And I want to name a few. Okay, you were the founder of the PAL Center. Okay, you're the founder of Moyer Academy, which we'll talk about later. Okay, your football and your track program. Like I said, we've done so much, especially for our youth. And one family in particular I know, and T.Y., who's a good friend of mine, all 3 of his kids went through your program. All 3 of them, since I guess they was old enough to run and walk. His son graduated from Delaware State College. His other son went to University of Delaware, graduated from University of Delaware. His daughter's a senior at University of Delaware, and he says a lot of their success is from what you've done. And just can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let me say it this way. I was a principal founder of the PAL, not the founder.
Okay.
Of the PAL. I was very much involved in the PAL. Kids, I don't know where I inherited the passion from. I know my mom liked to help people. My dad liked to help people, but more so my mom. I had a grandmother who very much loved helping kids and working with kids. And I grew up with a lot of people influencing and helping me, adults. And I came to a point where I realized that people really cared and people really helped. I think Dickie Wilson at the University of Delaware, who was just a great man and a great helping people, somewhere I got the idea that what I wanted to do was to be a helper, someone who helps young people along. And the passion has stuck with me. I mean, to this day, that's what I like doing. That's what I gave my life to, I'm giving my life to, but I just like seeing young people flourish. With T.Y.'s kids, I remember them being out there. On a personal note, the little girl was running and getting stronger and stronger. The oldest son, he came out wiry, and you could see his strength. The younger boy was a little pudgy, you know what I mean? But he stayed with it. He stayed with it. I mean, he struggled around that track, and then I saw him getting slender and running, and 3 great kids, and I can tell you that the athletic program helped them. Let me tell you one of the most rewarding experiences I had, and I'm not going to overly talk this. I was a counselor in the Upward Bound program, and we had a young man, he had sickle cell, and he was from downstate, kind of lanky and wiry, a little weak, and he came in, he was very off to himself, and I was a counselor. And he would stay to himself and wouldn't say anything. And I started working with him, and I think halfway through the Upward Bound program, he talked so much I had to tell him, shut up. I said, wow. I said, man, dude, you wouldn't even say anything when you first came in here. I'm telling you, 6 weeks later, he was just really articulating his views and just going on and on to the point he said, man, you got to stop now. You got to stop. So that's growth. I just like to see growth in young people. And everybody should be able to realize their fullest potential. I don't think that societal negatives and societal situations should preclude a person. You only get one life. From just living a life that's abundant and that you should have. I just think that we as adults have an obligation to ensure that every child should be able to reach their full potential. Does that mean you save everyone? Everyone will be able to do it, but no, but we should really strive to make sure that everybody can achieve their full potential.
Okay. Now, tonight, I'm going to go to you, Tom, but tonight the show was supposed to be County Council President and City Council President. Bullock had emergency, and I happened to see Tom, who graciously stepped in. So Theo, we didn't talk the whole hour, so we give both people a chance. But again, Bullock had emergency, and Tom was gracious enough to step
Are you
in.
telling me I'm talking too much, Ron?
What did you?
But I want to thank you.
What did you tell
I
that
gotta-
sickle cell kid?
But I
No,
got to
just-
thank
okay,
you. This
no.
I want to thank
I'm
you.
just a replacement.
I want to thank you for inviting my wife and I to be at the function on December 7th with the longshoremen, and I can tell you right now, my wife and I accept your invitation.
I appreciate it. Okay, now coming to you, Tom. Okay, your first 2 terms. Okay, you left the county with a $185 million surplus and a AAA bond rating. Okay, what's some of the challenges that you face for your 3rd term? And again, Glasgow Park. People don't know you was the founder of Glasgow Park. You bought Glasgow Park. You got Farmers Market at Glasgow Park. You got Sleep Under the Stars at Glasgow Park. You got Doggy Park at Glasgow Park, and other parks. But talk about some of your challenges for your 3rd term.
The challenge for the 3rd term is like everybody's going to have. The state has lost most of all of its jobs that have to do with paying middle class livable wages. I don't have to list it for you. We're in a crisis right now. That affects the state, the county, and the cities. So we're trying to get these parks going on a shoestring so that people have a little respite from the problems of their daily life, like with Glasgow, and the dog park in, getting the farmers market going. But we're all facing some serious challenges. It's not going to get better. We're not going to get industry coming overnight. We lost the DuPont company. We're losing AstraZeneca. We're losing the automobile plants. We're in serious trouble. So it's going to be the same thing that everyone has, the mayor and I and the governor is running the county on less money. And I think what's going to happen is going to be a structural change. Eventually somebody's going to have to deal with 17 school districts and 56 governments, and we're not going to be able to afford the luxury that we had years ago. That's a real challenge. That's the state was doing very well when I was in there in '97. We had to get the county to do well. Now I think we're all kind of in the middle of trying to figure out what we're going to do to generate manufacturing. You know, the port's a great opportunity. Delaware City refinery is the only other opportunity, and they're trying very hard to get jobs like the data center and stuff like that. So it's we're all working together. It's just too early to tell.
Okay. One more for you, Tom. Not one more for you, but okay. You work closely with Senator Biden to create the Violent Crime Control Law Enforcement Act, and you signed into law by Bill Clinton. You know, tell us a little bit about that law, and what's your strategies now for Newcastle County that you're working on now?
That was the crime bill that we worked very hard on. Started in this state with Senator Biden, now Vice President Biden. In that was the Violence Against Women Act. And you know, that went a long ways to providing officers to the street. Right now, I think the federal government doesn't have that kind of, or not offering that kind of money with the attacks that are going on. We've all got to come together and figure out how we can deal with the crime, not only in the city, but all over the county, where it's tracking poverty. I mean, poverty is going to continue to drive crime, and it's not going to get better. And we're putting on programs right now. We're putting programs together because heroin is here and meth is coming. And we met with some school people last week. We're going to try to put together award-winning programs. I almost think we need a class for parents with kids on drugs. I'm thinking about that. Because a lot of parents, their kids are on drugs, they don't know what to do. So we've got at all kinds of levels, social levels, as long as enforcement level, we've got to meet the need. And it's hard work, it's challenging, and we all got to come together on this.
Okay. And I hope, and next question is going to be for both of y'all, but I hope that with this program you're talking about, bringing Sean Allen into the mix. This is one young guy who does great things for the community. His pulse is on the people. And Mayor Williams has allowed him to do the things that this guy's an expert in. And I believe that when it's all said and done, Sean Allen is going to do a lot for the community. And
Sean Allen has always done a lot for
Yeah.
we need 10 Sean Allens.
Yes, that's
There's
the
no
truth.
question that he has the respect of the young people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we need him, and the mayor's got him, and he's very
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah, he is. Also, okay, this is Community Crossfire, so this question is to both of y'all. Y'all know I'm the president of Port of Wilmington. Okay, we just went through fighting privatization. We helped save thousands of jobs with the community. How do you and Tom, both of y'all, deal with the union as far as our contracts? You've dealt with contracts in negotiation with unions, and you've dealt with negotiation with unions. And a lot of times, unions get a bad rap. We get a bad rap. Everybody wants to blame unions, but how do you all deal with the unions and through negotiations and contracts?
Go ahead.
I assume you're talking about city unions. Again, I'm a legislator. I'm not the mayor. I'm not in the executive branch.
Okay. Well, how you feel about unions?
Well, I'm going to answer that if you quit attacking me on how I feel about unions.
I gotta ask this community crossfire. Norman, if I don't,
You're not letting me talk.
Norman will get on me. So.
Oh, my daddy was a union man. He was U.S. Steel. He was a coal miner.
Okay.
My mom worked at Webb's Laundry. I remember her coming home as a young boy talking about them trying to unionize and being unsuccessful. I'm fortunate to become a lawyer, but still my values are with the working man. I believe that the working man should have the health and welfare and wages that are livable, that are good wages. I really believe that. I think that unions have to negotiate in such a way that there's a tomorrow, though. You can't. I've seen some unions who try to negotiate for today, and they don't think about the pension later on or the health and welfare that they're going to have later on. So you just can't live for today. You got to live for tomorrow. I'll put it this way: had the opportunity to present itself, I could have seen myself being a union negotiator as a lawyer. So I think that unions are appropriate. I think that they're needed. I think that they're on the downswing in part because we experience a lot of growth in this country and a lot of good salaries at one time, but that's stagnant, is backing off, and a lot of challenges now. But you do need unions. I think that unions collectively, when one man's voice is not as powerful as 10 men's voices. Therefore, I believe that there's a place for unions in our society.
Tom.
I'll go even stronger. We used to be about 30% organized. We're down to 7. If you track the loss of middle class, it's a loss of unions. Now, 1900, there were 5 or 6 corporations owned all the wealth. It was unions that broke them up. 1940, the same thing. Right now, Wall Street is enjoying the best years that they've ever had. But there's no middle class and there's no unions.
Right.
Somebody, it's going to be a revolution. This is crazy, but somebody's got to break it up. Nobody's going to do it. The 1% control the Senate. Somebody has to go in and break these corporations up because we have no middle class. According to Wall Street, we ought to be rich. The only people getting rich are the corporations. They're not sharing. They're global, and they don't care where the work's done. We're losing our standard of living because of this, and it's going to continue. And the only people that could bring it back is organized labor. And since Reagan destroyed them, we went from 30% to about 6 or 7.
Yeah, the economic model that I'm familiar with is that when the stock market goes up, more people are hired and salaries go up. But that's not the case. The stock market goes up. I mean, we don't even talk about it in terms of, over the top anymore. It just goes up and up and up. But that money is not being invested or returned to the workers. The folk who are at the top are keeping it and putting in their investment vehicles, et cetera.
Offshore accounts.
So we need to do something to certainly. I think I'm looking at this and analogizing it. I remember my father kind of talking about this a little bit to the coal mine unionizing. It was tough times, and they did what they had to do. I think that we're in that era now, but in a more sophisticated way as it relates to financial institutions and big corporations.
Boston just had the first mayor was a trade union. And I think just like the state police, a lot of state police are legislators. I think that unions is going to have to start running for political office and having a voice because the profits are going up for the rich, but they're outsourcing everything.
And they're hiring part-time employees. 4 out of 5 of the jobs across this country are part-time. They don't want to pay benefits. They don't want to pay salaries. They want to be 100 to 1, 100 times the salary of a workman. And nobody's going to change it because the unions are weak and the corporations are strong. Now they got to vote.
Well, I would say all unions are not weak.
They're in numbers.
Right.
Now,
right.
So why do I think unions are important? It's not. I mean, they're a small number. Not because they vote. It's because who else is going to work for the middle class? And we've lost the middle class. We're a service economy in this state. That means get ready for the loss of standard of living. You're seeing it. If you have kids, they're moving back with you. Your grandparents. I mean, I can see it because I look at the numbers of housing. There's nobody able to buy houses right now because nobody makes a salary anymore. You got You got these sweatshops moving in here, and the people with the money are moving out.
We talk about unemployment, but there's a huge underemployment population. I remember as a younger man when I came to realize that we have jobs, as Tom just said, a lot of part-time jobs. We have a lot of people who are underemployed to the point where they're living in poverty. But we have a lot of underemployed folk in this city.
Yes, you do.
I want to skip the subject just a little bit. Okay, I want to talk about education. Okay, Delaware public schools are going in a new direction. Okay, there are more charter schools being funded with public money, but yet we have a dropout rate. You know, statewide we had a dropout rate of 4%. In the city, it's 58%. The highest dropout rate is 28% in the city. The highest dropout rate in the whole state is 28%. And what most people understand is the highest dropout rate is Moyer Academy to this day in the whole state, but yet it remains open. Theo, do you have any, both of y'all, comments?
Well, I gave a speech to the Rotary of Wilmington, and one of the phases I talked about was education, and I simply said education is a mess. We are trying to fix the unintended consequences of DSEG from 76, 78, and we still haven't gotten it right. I'm amazed that oftentimes we talk about best practices before we do something, but all I see in public education is one experiment after the other, not based on best practices. Oftentimes you can just track it to somebody's new idea or the money or some project that somebody wants to do. But education is a mess, and it's premised on fixing the unintended consequences of DSAG. And I could get into DSAG, what happened, which got us to where we are today, quite frankly. And it's a mess, and I don't know, and it's the genesis for crime. You can tie the criminal stats right back to education, the underdevelopment and failure to develop our children. But education, in one sentence, is a mess.
Tom,
Well, you know, the mayor and I, and with city council, county council, are trying to work on it. I totally agree with Theo. DSEG has destroyed the city. We need a city high school. Charter schools are sucking a little bit of money out of. There is probably a need for charter schools, but not the numbers we have now. All that's doing is taking the best kids out of public schools. Mm-hmm. We have busing only in the city, bus to 4 school districts. Kids are not getting up 6 o'clock in the morning who would want to. They're leaving the schools, and we got to stop it. We put our money where our mouth is. Maurice Pritchard's working on getting the numbers. I think the numbers are going to show how horrible this experiment has been, and it's got to stop, and it's got to stop as quickly as we can get it stopped. It's horrible that we have that tremendous dropout rate, and many of those kids are resorting to crime.
We need to have a high-level panel discussion in the city with folk who understand what's going on. I'm not talking about blue ribbon folks, so to speak, or folk who are highfalutin. I'm talking about folk who are really interested in articulating the problem. Now, one of the things Tom said is that they're siphoning off our better kids. That's true for some charter schools. That's true. But there's a whole cadre of charter schools that's siphoning off the problem kids and the special ed kids. Now, I'm not going to get into discussion on that because that's a whole lot of discussion on what's taking place there. Even one or two of the new charter schools they're talking about bringing online is to siphon off special ed kids. But my problem, I guess, it's not my problem, I get really frustrated because my community is walking around and but we don't have a school board. We don't have a voice. And that's one of the things I keep articulating. We have to have a voice for this urban community, a real urban voice as to what should or should not be happening in public education. Be decision makers, I don't know, but certainly we need to have influence. We really need to have influence in public education.
I want both of y'all to answer this, okay? Do you see any value in student standardizing tests?
Tom, you want to try that? Because I don't want to dog the conversation.
I don't want to pretend like I know that much about schools. I know that you ran a very good school.
I can tell you what I think.
I want to hear your opinion.
No, I think that these core standards, standardized tests, but let's go to the end. Number one, It's supposed to be state, nationwide, different values in all these communities, from the deep south to the most liberal northeast city, to California to Maine. You're going to have core curriculum that's going to dictate and drive what you're going to teach nationwide. Well, the first problem you're going to have is who's going to audit and make sure everybody's teaching the same thing. And communities have different values. How are you going to dictate to a community what their values should be? Remember those Scopes trials and the evolutionary trials in Texas? Well, do you want to teach us or not? Well, some people said we did, some people said we don't. I think that we're going to find that the Common Core standards is going to come unglued. We're going to have spent millions and millions of dollars, and it's not going to work because it need not work. I had this conversation with an educator, and the educator said, well, shouldn't you, if you moved to Pennsylvania, have been exposed to the same thing that you were in Delaware? And I said, wait a minute, I moved from West Virginia to Delaware. I was a B student in West Virginia. They put me in the B section. After about 2 weeks, they came and got me and said you had to go to the A section because apparently the West Virginia schools were ahead of the Delaware schools. So I went to the A section. Well, it's been like that since the beginning of time. The states should be able to, I believe in home rule. I believe in home rule as much as possible down to the lowest common denominator. So I believe the states should drive what their students are taught. You're not going to have core common standards because they're still trying to get it right. This has been around since 2006 when it was first announced. They're never going to get it right. Okay. Do something else with that money.
Let me ask this question. A lot of people don't know what Common Core is. Explain what Common Core is. Is that funding for schools? To me, it means funding for schools from Wall Street.
This is a curriculum, and your curriculum has to have these elements in it. And they have pedagogy and all this.
But who's
fancy
funding
language.
the Common Core? See, most people don't understand that Wall Street.
Are people making money off of Common Core? Yes.
Okay, but most people don't understand that Wall Street is in our public schools, in our schools.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know that. That's what I'm saying. The Common Core.
Well, I'm just telling you, I don't see it working because someone has to audit to make sure every school has Common Core standards. Now, how are you going to do that? Let's just think about evaluating teachers, and it's related. The article in the paper was, well, the Department of Education doesn't like the fact that more teachers are not being rated harder. Well, who are you to say how these principals are rating teachers? You can have standards. Now you want to go into the school and execute how they rate the teachers because you don't think that the percentage of ineffective teachers is where you think it should be. It's a mess. It's one big mess.
We're going to do one more thing, then we're going to start taking phone calls in a minute. Okay, do you think that teachers' pay should be tied into student test scores?
No, I just don't know. No. What you're going to do, you're going to give me the special needs teacher kids and then tie it to my scores? Or you're going to give me kids who have behavior problems? And I have my classroom and I've developed it and the kids are growing. You can see them taking tests better, but they're not where the other kids are who come in with no behavior problems. You're going to give me all the teachers? You're going to give me all of those kids and then you're going to tell me I'm a bad teacher because they are not where those kids are? No, it's a mess. Okay. The principal, the school leader knows what's going on. You got to have strong school leaders. That's the key, strong school leaders.
Now, I know a lot of people may disagree, but people always say that the schools are doing bad because they took prayer out. I say, from where I'm coming from, I think a lot of the schools are doing bad because there's no African male teachers there.
Well, that's a problem.
And when I was coming up, Mr. Hart, Mr. Wright, people would make sure, especially for ones who didn't have fathers at home, they spent time, but they also disciplined us and straightened us out. And now they say the average kid won't see an African male teacher until he's in college.
What?
And that's the studies show that.
That's one of the things we emphasized at Moyer. We had a high percentage of African American male teachers, and they probably had passed Praxis 1, but not Praxis 2, which is a test that everybody's getting waivers for, and they're changing that and everything now. I mean, a written test is not indicative of one's ability to teach necessarily. Let me put it this way. If I take Praxis 1, and that's the terminology. Then I take Praxis 2, which is more content. And then I take it 2 or 3 times and I pass it on the 3rd time because I've learned how to take the test better. And now if I become a better teacher, I got Practice 2. There's a skill set in teaching, one that people have to bring to the process because they are just committed. It's almost like being a good police officer, in my opinion. I was born to be a police officer. I'm born to be a teacher. And then I learned how to do it based on some rules and how it's done. But we need more black male teachers, absolutely.
Tom,
and we need to find incentives to ensure that we get more black male teachers.
One of the things I was thinking about when they go to certain colleges, if they go in their community to teach, they may get the first few years paid for their college. I mean,
look at what they're getting ready to do now. They're trying to say that they're going to tie the colleges that the teachers came from to the performance of the teachers, and the performance of the teachers tied to the performance of the students. They have this going on. So if they do an analysis and they see UD, Dell State, Wilmington College, et cetera, and they say, okay, well, let's look at the teachers, where they came from, how do their students perform, which is indicative of how they perform, which is indicative of how we're going to look at the college. That is ridiculous. There's so many human variables in there that you can't, you don't even know the cause and effect.
Okay, we got one more. And
it sounds nice, but it's ridiculous.
We're going to take, after this question here, I want both of you guys to answer it, and then we're going to take some calls. We're going to take the calls, and they can put the numbers up. Okay, should Delaware increase the minimum wage? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It gets back to the corporations are totally out of control in this country, and they're destroying us in the state. All you're getting is minimum wage and service jobs. And to think that they're going to hurt their profits, which are the highest they've ever been, because somebody's going to make a little bit more, is outrageous. But you won't see a change because they're more powerful than ever and they're richer than ever.
Yes.
That was short and sweet. Okay, we'd like to put the phone number up and start taking some calls.
By the way, I thought his answers are great. He was a principal and a lawyer, and I stay in my lane.
I mean, it's just. It's
I
good.
thought he ran a good school. I was over there.
Yeah,
many.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we need more structure. I think people do better with structure. We just need more structure. So also,
but this thing of they're going to rate colleges based on how teachers' performances are, which are based on how the students perform.
Hello.
Yes, I wanted to talk to Tom. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Cut my TV off. Yeah, since Delaware is so small, and I wanted to get the response from Tom and Mr. Gregory. I say Tom because I've worked with him plenty of times before. Since Delaware is so small, why is it that we can't use our size for educational and business models to come and test? I know Microsoft and large companies like that and Google like small areas where they can use it as a beta testing site in real time and real life situations so that we can bring more corporations to Delaware, get more tax incentives after we give them tax incentives for coming. Why can't we do that with the educational system, and why can't we do that to generate more jobs? I'll listen to what you guys have to say.
All right, thank you.
I'm not sure what the question was. He says, why can't we be a model for testing here, which would bring jobs from your various, like Microsoft and those kinds of companies? Well, I just say you got to follow the money. You got to figure out who's being hired and who's not being hired in these processes. Again, as I said earlier, we talk about best practices and doing things, but I can assure you that many things that are taking place in public education are experiments and not based on best practices. And I throw this out, and this warrants a whole this panel discussion. What is the measurements and testing that ensures success or is indicative of success. You got to remember now there's a human element in that that set that benchmark. And what about all these other human variables that come along that suggest whether or not a person is going to be successful or not?
Go ahead, you on the air.
Oh, hi. This is Denise Spanish. My question, how you doing? And hello to Mr. Gregory and Tom Gordon.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to pose this question to Theo Gregory in regards to the educational system. How do you feel about every student in the educational system having their own individualized learning plan? Not only including math and reading, but psychological and behavior needs as well, and that plan being followed throughout the school year and implemented with the parents' input, the teachers' input, the administrators' input, and I mean literally every student having their own learning plan. I'm not talking about some general
No. I'm going to answer
thing.
that. I agree with.
Can he answer the question for you now?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
I agree with that 100%, because accompanying that would be a redefinition of success and progress. We now take a cookie cutter approach as to what is progress and what is success. The epiphany and the light comes on for us at different times and in different ways. But I believe that if you do that wraparound, individualized learning plan for each kid, I think that would be great. The problem, though, is in execution. In order to do that, you're going to have to kind of make your pools of kids smaller. You're going to have to take and double up on some of your specialists that's working with the kids, because it's so challenging in public schools. I once heard that the difference between a private school and a public school many times is behavior. Both sets of kids are very intelligent, both can learn. The problem is you end up dealing with a whole lot of behavior challenges in the public school.
Okay.
So as a consequence, I agree with what you said 100% if we're going to make the commitment to do it with the right personnel and do it the right way.
All right, you on the air. Hello? Hello, you on the air.
Hello. I want to say to Mr. Gregory, you're 100% correct on the Common Core standards. They are destroying our public schools, and our children are learning nothing. They're learning to take a test. They don't know what the information is in order to take that test because they're not being taught correctly. And I also wanted to mention the Delaware Crime Prevention Act. There was a meeting today with some judges, and I have to say that those judges are absolutely opposed to mandatory sentencing. The Delaware Crime Prevention Act, of course, eliminates mandatory sentencing and creates drug and rehabilitation treatment centers. And I wanted to know what the two of you feel about that.
Well, I don't believe in mandatory sentencing.
Okay, thank you.
I think that mandatory sentencing came about try to impose some fairness in the system. In fact, because people of color were being discriminated against, but now that pendulum has swung the other way, and I believe in individualized sentencing. I think you have to look at the total person in terms of sentencing. I just don't think. I think judges should make those decisions, and of course they are accountable to a judicial system and to the community. But I don't believe in mandatory sentencing. But I want to go back to something that the question Ms. Spanish asked, and that's this. When I was in school, we informally had individualized learning plans, because I went to segregated Dunleith, and I went to a segregated school in Gary, West Virginia. Now I didn't understand it then; I was too young. But when I look back on Dunleith, the way those teachers apparently were talking to about us in the cafeteria and other places, and when they approached us, they did it in an individualized way, and they got to know us. It wasn't formalized. It was because they wanted to be teachers, and they wanted to get the best out of us. So in a sense, those years when I was in school, my middle school years, we were in an individualized learning plan environment in those segregated schools.
Let me explain a little bit.
Go ahead.
I was involved in the mandatory sentence laws. If law enforcement has no other options, to keep the people that are dealing drugs are mostly doing a crime. They'll prefer to have them in prisons. But what we've learned over the years is that they need to be treated, and Liz has been on the forefront of that. We absolutely need to separate, I think. Otherwise, we're going to have everybody in the world in prison, mostly from the city. We need treatment. We need to get involved in the drugs that are coming. We need to get involved in the education of the parents and treatment for the people that have it, long-term, short-term.
And also the problem of mandatory sentencing is this. That's the end. And let's go back to the beginning, and that is, what are our law enforcement policies? Discretion of police officers on the street, discretion of prosecutors. Then we get to the judge, and now all of a sudden the judge is locked in to what was sent to him.
Okay, you on the air.
So it's not mandatory sentencing.
Yes, I forgot one important question. What do the two panelists think about the increase in fares at Dart First State and stopping the trolley bus from going down on Walnut Street to pick up the senior citizens?
You just
Okay.
said something to me that I need to
Thank
look
you.
into. I'm not familiar with it, and I apologize for not being familiar with what's going on there. I don't know.
Okay.
Certainly I should be familiar with what's going on Walnut Street, but the fact that the fares have been raised is more of a state issue, but nonetheless, there's something that I have to get my staff to look into so that we can see the cause and effect and maybe try to influence what's going on.
Tom.
Yep, that certainly is something that I'm not sure about Walnut Street being a county
I don't know.
executive, but I will rely on Theo to find out about that.
We'll work on it.
Okay, one thing like I said again, we will have a union show, and I've met the president of DART. Excellent, excellent young man. Supported us wholeheartedly down in Legislation Hall. We want to have Amtrak, the post office. We want at least 5 or 6 presidents of different unions, and maybe a couple organizers. And it's time for us to let the community know what's going on, what we can do to improve the community. Again, at the Port of Wilmington, just this year, it's not even over, we have 2 people who who's coming into the union in January. So they get benefits, they get vacation, they get a holiday. So now they're able to support their family and do things. I think next year might even be bigger. Again, this is what we need, and we need more involvement. We need people to get involved, but the unions are important, and it's not that many jobs out there.
Can I just offer to the gentleman that called, historically, DART has responded to the city's inquiries and suggestions, and with respect to routes in the city and stops, they do respond to what's going on.
Go ahead, you on the air.
But in terms
Go
of fares, we don't have a lot of influence
Hello.
there.
Go ahead, you on the air.
Hi, I just want to say hi to Mr. Gordon. Keep up the good work for the community.
Thank you.
And to Mr. Gregory, thanks for helping with the youth in the city
Thank you.
and all that you do.
Thank you.
I know you mentioned Warrior Academy. I think Mr. Gregory used to be involved with the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Mr. Jacobs is having a community holiday dinner at Moyer.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to help with the kids. But I want to ask, how do you feel about Mr. Jacobs feeding the community, but don't want to feed his 2 children and tell you?
I don't want to do it. We heard the question, and I'll let Theo answer about.
You have some questions and you have some facts in your question that I can't verify. I'm not familiar with, so I don't feel comfortable answering the question.
Okay, and I don't want to get into people's personal stuff. I don't want to do that. But again, like today, I watched a great show, and who I'm very impressed with, and I think he's up and coming. I think he's already there. It's Donald Morton.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy listening to you, Donald, and I love the way you do things, and just keep up the good work.
He's an up and coming. He's going to be
He's there. That's just
his mother's son.
Yeah, I watched him, and Donald, you're doing excellent work, and today to listen to you again is excellent, and just keep up the good work, and again, I hope that the Senior Bowl next year, Theo, you and Tom, you're going to take some dance lessons. We're going to raffle off.
I need it.
We're going to raffle off some tickets, and the mayor, he can boogie little, he can dance, and the seniors and let them dance with the mayor, let them dance with the president, city council, and on and on.
He said he can't dance, but I think he can.
Dennis can dance.
We can do the two-step.
No, Dennis can.
I think he was doing
No, I'm
a little
sorry, I don't mean to
dancing.
say Dennis. The mayor can dance.
Yeah, we're gonna do
I've seen the
two-step.
mayor can dance, but the seniors really enjoyed themselves, and it was just a great time. And again, it's awesome. And again, I want everybody to understand something. Again, we're gonna do a show about the unions because the ports administration is trying to break up our union. They're trying to do the same thing to us that they did in Wisconsin as far as taking our language, changing our seniority. And it's nothing but a retaliation against our union. And we will let the public know, we will bring you the information. And it's sad what they're doing. They're trying to say if a guy who's number 1 or 10 on the list, if they want the guy who's number 100, they can do that. They want to change our whole language and basically take everything from us. And we've been in negotiation many a times, and we've never had this type of issue. You know, again, they want to change everything, you know. So, and again, people come in our community to ask us to vote for them, and we do. But one of our biggest problems is we don't hold nobody accountable. After they vote, we leave and they leave. We need to start holding people accountable. That's what get things done. I mean, these two gentlemen, they handle their business, but a lot of politicians, and we don't make them do anything. And that needs to stop. Again, Theo, I'm gonna give you a minute, Tom, and
I'm going to go back to one of your original questions, and that is, people have asked me over the years, why do you do it? I do it because I think there's an obligation and a responsibility to do it. And as I've gotten older and more spiritual, that obligation and responsibility is more embedded in me. And I think that that's the reason I'm very conscientious and very deliberative in my decision making. There's always a search for trying to do the right thing for the right reasons. I know it's multifaceted, and everybody doesn't get what they want necessarily, but it's a process of who gets what, when, where, and how. And I say there's not enough to go around because of need and greed. But I'm in the process of trying to just try to be fair and ensure that the least of us are appropriately dealt with, just like those of us who have abundance. So that's why I do it. It's my voice and my values that's coming into play.
okay, Tom.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here with Theo and yourself. And I'm sure Reverend Bullock would be here if he could, and I'm sure I wasn't quite the fill-in for him, but
You handle your own. Like
he
you always
does.
do.
He's much better than me, but he'll be back on again as soon as you need him. And I just think you put on a good show tonight. There were great questions, and you kept it going for an hour. Glad to be part of it. You did a good job.
People don't understand
Gonna
it's a
be
lot
Johnny
harder.
Carson.
It's a lot harder sitting here than what people think. But I want to mention, I've got a couple of minutes. I want to mention again about the Port of Wilmington Employees' 3rd annual Port Workers Night Out. It's a holiday party. It's September. I'm sorry, I keep saying September. It's Saturday, December the 7th, 2013, 7 p.m. to 12 midnight at the Moose Lodge, 621 South DuPont, Newcastle. Okay, it's going to have entertainment, prizes at the door, DJ, free food, free drink, cash bar, $30 each. You know, you got to dress to impress. And if you want to get tickets, you can call Tazzy Scott, 530-5240, or Deborah Thomas, 472-7802. And one more thing is the Delaware State Alumni Association, Newcastle County chapter. It's a meet and greet at Delaware State Wilmington campus, Saturday, November the 16th at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. So make sure that you get out there again. And I'd like to thank again the seniors, my mother, Mabel Cephas, my big brother, Ronald Cephas. Also, Mabel Foster, Emmett Foster's mother, your son, he's my secretary treasurer. He don't listen to me. If you can talk to him, I really would appreciate it. Your son, Miss Mabel, don't listen to me. So just talk to him again. And I appreciate both of you guys.
Good job.
Okay?
Thank you for having me.
Thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you, Norman Oliver.